Hi again, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Litter Media Live. I'm Dan Ramey. He's Chris Stangle, and we're going to talk about the big deal at Great Seal. We'll learn more in just a moment, right after this, by Classic Brands.
You haven't had vodka soda like this. No one has. Made with the world's smoothest vodka plus real juice. New White Claw Vodka Soda.
Well, as we mentioned, the big deal at Great Seal is coming up the first weekend in May, and that is going to be a big time for runners. I know we currently have the Buck 50 getting prepared, and that's how we got Chris here. You're here to run the Buck 50, aren't you?
Absolutely. We've been here, I think this is my fifth of the 7 years. So I hit the first 2 years, and then this is 3 in a row. I just missed the third and fourth year.
You have been running great distances for how long now?
I started ultra running in, I believe it was 2016. I've been a runner my whole life, but ultra running 2016. Actually, my first race was here at Great Seal Park.
Now, for folks who don't understand what an ultra marathon is, what's the distance? What are we looking at?
The classic definition of ultra marathon is really anything over a marathon, which is 26.2 miles. But usually the first true classified distance is a 50-kilometer race, which is 31 miles.
Now, there's a sect of people who are watching and are thinking, have you ever had your head examined?
Ironically enough, 31 miles seems pretty short to me anymore, but they can be challenged for sure.
And there's a lot of mental strength that I can't imagine. I recall running a 5K when I was in high school. My running days are way behind me now. But I just recall the body and the mind have to work together, don't they, to make it at a great distance?
Certainly. Ultra running is, there's obviously a certain level of talent that goes into it, but more so than any other distance, it's about strategy and mental fortitude to just kind of push past what you think your body may be capable of.
Now, as you mentioned, your first big run was here at home at Great Seal State Park.
Absolutely. Your mama's, they had a 100-miler back then. They offered, I think it was a 100-miler, a 100K, a 50-miler, and a 50K. And my good friend, Zane Miller, was running the 100-miler that year. And he had previously been helping me train for a half marathon. And just coincidentally, we hit my goal pace for the half marathon in training. So I just kind of asked him, well, what now? And he said, well, you should come run the 100-miler. And obviously I wasn't prepared for that, but he convinced me to sign up for the 50-miler that day. And it was only, I think, maybe 6 weeks from when I decided to sign up for it. Went out there and just kind of winging it and had a blast. Fell in love with ultra running right away. And ironically, that was the last ultra marathon held in Great Seal Park. So very exciting that it's all kind of coming full circle, and my first ultra marathon hosting will be in the exact same park.
Yeah. Now you're looking at a 5K, a 25K, and a 50K.
Yes. The park is pretty limited on, I know most of us around here think Great Seal Park is really big, but in the big scheme of things, ultra marathon, it's actually a pretty small park and is narrow, So we do have a 25K loop. That one loop obviously will be the 25K distance. 2 loops will be the 50K distance. And then we have a smaller option, the 5K loop, which is definitely not easy. A lot of people signed up for it, I assume, thinking that they were going to take the easy way out. I just hiked it on my way here this morning. I can't really pass those hills without stopping by. And I went out and hiked the 5K course this morning, and it is very tough, very tough.
Yeah. Now, for folks who have never seen anything like this, or you've never been to Great Seal Park, you got to get out there and see the beauty of it all. But if you look down through your Facebook feed, you've got some actual video that shows how steep some of these trails are and the challenge that some of these Buck 50 runners are also participating in this weekend.
Yes, there's I think there's 3 routes in the Buck 50 course that take part somewhere in Great Seal Park. One comes in from Zane Trace and then just kind of gets up into the trails. I believe it's like 13. It's actually one that I'm running myself, runs all the way across the park. And then 14 goes up on the Lick Run side of the park. So a lot of the trails that are in the Big Deal are also in the Buck 50 as well. We just kind of run different routes on them.
Yeah. Now, you will not be able to run the Big Deal because you're kind of running the Big Deal.
Absolutely. There's a lot of work that goes into hosting one of these events. Once it goes live, I'm kind of nonstop for the duration. So I'm very jealous that I don't get to race out there, but I'm very excited to bring some of my friends that, from all over the country that are coming into town to experience it for the first time.
We know in the 7 years of the Buck 50, now there's 24 states being represented by those who have entered this year. What about your group?
So far, we have 9 states and 2 gentlemen coming from Canada for this event. So
yours is an international flavor.
Yeah, it's pretty cool for the first time event. Just a little bit of backstory. I own RunFluent LLC, which is a run coaching company. So I coach runners all over the country. So that kind of helps me spread the word for these races. I have clients coming in from several states, and then they tend to bring friends with them. So it helps out a lot.
What do you need to do to train for an ultra running event? I mean, how much different is that than running, say, a 5K?
Ultra running, again, is a lot about strategy, training your body to run at lower efforts for extended periods of time. And honestly, it depends on what type of course you're running. When I lived here, 4+ years ago, I was really good at running hills. I used to run Great Seal Park almost every single day. But now I live in Tampa, and I race primarily the Florida Trail. It's very flat. It still presents its challenges with sandy terrain, swampy terrain, things like that. But I've really suffered in the hills now.
Yeah, not much elevation there at all, is there?
Not at all. I just went up last month and ran the Georgia Death Race and had a rough go.
Golly.
Rough go.
For folks who are hearing about this and they've been training, and they just, for instance, maybe they're here for the Buck 50 this weekend, what about getting involved with your race?
We do still have, I think we have about 19 spots remaining. All of our swag, medals, T-shirts, everything are custom made, so we kind of pre-ordered X amount about a month ago. So we do have about 19 spots still available, and that's universal across all distances. So as soon as those fill up, which I expect in the next week or so, then the race will be sold out. It's a good problem to have. Yeah. But we would love to get some more people into Chillicothe and experience Great Seal Park. A lot of people don't travel here just because there's not a lot else going on. But I know there's the weekend of my race, there's also a big baseball tournament, I believe, going on as well. So hopefully we can attract some of those folks as well.
Yeah. You mentioned you're based in Tampa now. You've run events down there as well. Do you have any of your runners coming from Tampa to experience what Ohio is like?
We do. We have a young lady coming from St. Petersburg, which is basically Tampa Bay. We have people coming from North Carolina, Arkansas, South Tampa or South Florida, and all the surrounding states up here. I have a couple clients coming from Michigan, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Indiana, Kentucky. I don't know. I think that's pretty much got them covered. But.
And what have you told them about the course, how to prepare?
Yeah, most people that have not been to Ohio or have only experienced maybe Columbus or Cleveland believe that it's very flat. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing I tried to instill in people, that this course is not flat at all. There's honestly not a flat spot on the course. None of the hills are huge. But there's definitely some tough climbs out there, and the entire course rolls. So I like to compare it to a roller coaster. because, the first climb up Sugarloaf is super steep, straight up. There's no switchbacks, no curves to it. You're literally just going straight up the mountain. And then it just kind of rolls all the way across through Lick Run and all the way back. And then the 50K people have to do it all over again. So it's going to be a challenge. I put kind of a challenge out there for the competitive people to anyone that can complete the 50K course in less than 6.5 hours wins a specific award. So I'm interested to see how many people get that award.
Yeah, that'd be great. They deserve a medal.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think. Having not really experienced it, what's tougher, going up the hill or coming down the hill?
Depends on the hill. For me, and because I race a lot of mountain races, and coming down mountains is significantly more taxing on the body. Your quad muscles, if you're not prepared for it, will absolutely quit on you. Yeah. And that's kind of what happened to me at Georgia Death Race. I had a great 50 miles, and then the last 24 were kind of a death march. But that just comes with living in Florida and not having the ability to truly train running down mountains. I have a treadmill that does incline up to 40 degrees. So I can climb all day long. I'm comfortable with my climbing and races, but the downhills are very hard to simulate. And the only ways to do them are not fun to simulate. It's very monotonous and boring. So it's very challenging to train for. So like I said, it depends on the hill and where you have the capabilities of training. If you live near hills, then both going up and down can be quite enjoyable. But when you don't come from them, they're quite a challenge.
Now, you can find the event page on Facebook if you want to learn more about the big deal at Great Seal. If you want to be a spectator and come out, or maybe a volunteer, is there a way to do so?
Yes. On our Facebook page, we do have a Sign Up Genius floating around. There's been tons of posts going on there, so we kind of constantly have to bring it back to the top. But if you look under the description on the event page, at the bottom of that, there is a Sign Up Genius for volunteers. We have several people already volunteered, but obviously we can always use more. This shirt is actually a volunteer T-shirt. All of my volunteers get special T-shirts because we truly appreciate everything you do. Spectator-wise, anywhere up around the main part of the park, by the Ireland shelter, is fine for spectators to be, or down at the Lick Run Road mountain bike parking area. That will be one of our aid stations. Those are basically the two spots we're limiting spectators to. Unless, of course, you want to hike the trails, then by all means go where you want to go. But cars, parking-wise, we are not allowing crew members, spectators, support people to go anywhere other than those two locations.
Yeah. Now, I know we're expecting some weather this weekend for the Buck 50, and I remember during my running days when I was much younger, I despised running in the rain. Again, a mental thing that you have to challenge yourself with, right?
Yeah, honestly, I don't mind running in the rain or racing in the rain as long as it's not extremely cold. I think the rain's really worse for the people putting on the event and the spectators. Yeah. The standing around waiting to start your race is miserable if it's rainy. But once you go, and as long as the temperature is decent, the rain's kind of nice because it keeps you from overheating.
Yeah, my big problem was having glasses. No windshield wipers, so to speak.
Present a challenge.
Exactly. Well, wish you well with this event. And again, if you want to find out more, you can search on Facebook for The Big Deal at Great Seal. Chris Stangle, a Chillicothe kid, coming back to do something cool. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching another edition of Litter Media Live.